So the first thing that you have to do when starting this texture quilt is to take 5 photos of things that have a tangible texture, something that you can feel the texture of. Remember that texture gives kind of a 3D appearance. You can take photos at home with your camera or your phone. Just make sure that if you are using your phone that you email the pictures to your SBISD school email, because I do not have cords to attach from the phone to the computer. You can also use my cameras at school and take some photos at school. You only need 5 of them, so it shouldn't take you that long. You'll see that I have a folder for all my textures, and here I have my 5, and actually I have 6, but there's 5 textures that I have created there. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to select the first 5 of those, and I'm going to open these in Photoshop. Because the first thing that I need to do is I need to crop these into a workable area. And I also want to name them and save them as Photoshop files instead of JPEGs. Okay, so here we have the crop tool, which you guys have already learned. One of the things that you haven't done yet, or at least not with me, is you can actually give a specific size to your crop. What size do you want your finished one to be? So let's go ahead and we're going to make this 1.5 inches. Whoops. So that means you have to type in 1.5 IN. Oops. Let me try that again. 1.5 IN. There we go. 1.5 IN. So that's going to be a perfect square. I'm going to make the resolution be 150 pixels per inch. Now, all I want to do is I want to find a nice interesting area of this photo to crop. And I could do something that small. That would make it 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. I could make it bigger. I could move it around. I could even rotate it a little bit so that I could get a good area. Once you have an area you like, just go ahead and double click to apply the crop. Now, that looks awfully small, but if you look down here, just remember that that right now is set at 33% for the zoom. If I zoom into whoops, that went too far. If I zoom into 100%, that's the full size of it. Okay, so then you also want to save it, and I would go ahead and save it. You're going to have several files that you worked with, so you're going to actually want to have a folder called textures, and you want to save everything here. Now, as I said, this needs to be a Photoshop file, not a JPEG file, so make sure you change your format. Then go ahead and name it, and this is wall. That's what the picture is of. So I'm going to click save. That way I know what it is later and makes it easy for me to find. Again here, and my crop is already set, so I can go in and I'm going to go ahead and use that one there. And again, I will save, and that is a locker. And I'm going to change the format to a Photoshop file and click save and close. I don't remember actually. Oh, yes, I do. This is a mat. So I am actually going to make this kind of a big one. And I want this to have a little tilt or a little angle to it. Maybe I make it smaller so I can make that fit better. Maybe straight up and down, actually. And again, I'll make it a little smaller so that I can fit it. There, that makes for an interesting crop. And that is cart mat. I'm not sure if that's the official term, but it makes sense to me. And then I'm going to hit save, and I've got 2 more to do. This is carpet, obviously, and apply the crop. Change the format. And then this is the bottom of my shoe. And I don't know, I think I'm going to do some small and some big. And let me get that last one in there. There we go. And I'm going to file save as. I'm just going to call that shoe and Photoshop and hit save. And I can close that. And now we can actually see that they are all here and saved. If I organize it by kind, then all of my Photoshop files show up here first. So that was pretty easy, that step for cropping your textures. 5 images, crop them into a 1.5 by 1.5 inch square so that and save them as a Photoshop file for use in the next few parts of this assignment.